Alright, continuing reading, we're going to go to subpart C, or a little bit farther. Alright, 21311, restoration renewal of the track under traffic conditions. During the period of restoration renewal of the track under the traffic conditions does not meet all the requirements prescribed by the part of the work of the track shall be under continuous supervision. Person does not designated under statute 213.7 who has at least 1 year of supervisor experience with railroad track maintenance is subject to limited conditions specified by such a person determines continuous supervision used for the section provided physical presence of the person at the job site. However, since the work may be performed over a large area, it is not necessary that each of the phases of the work be done on a visual and supervision with this person. The sections specify the person designated under statute 213.7 must provide the continuous supervision during the work period when the track conditions not complying with the designated class under the track conditions of the specific section specific each of the phase of the restoration renewal needs not to be under the visual supervision of that person, but the person must be present on the job site, direct control of the work, to have direct knowledge of the condition of the track over the permit with the train to pass. The qualified person at work site may determine that it's safe for the permit the train to pass the work area to speed of the permanent speed of the track. For example, the cross tie the resurface of the project with the qualified person may analyze the condition of the present authorized speed higher than 10 miles an hour through the limits of work when the temporary cross level conditions exceed the limit of statute 213.63 class 1 track. Similarly, welder may permit a train to pass over the crog with the welding grinding process. The temporarily remove the point of the more than 6 inches more than 5/8 of an inch down. At the end of the work period, the designated person leaves the work side of the track must be compliant with the track safety standards that are acceptable to the designated person. The determination that the track is safe for the operation of class 1 speed, the use of the statute 213.9 with remedial action. Continuous supervision must be met with the work of the program and into the number of segments over the large area. The inspector must judgment the experience in applying with the limitation of the general rule. The essential question whether the specific circumstances of the given project actually permit effective supervision designated persons, whether such supervision is being properly exercised. Example, the acceptance of the application of the paragraph would be large for the tower, the surfacing unit, for the cleared with the track with a short period for the allowed the passage of the train pass. The qualified person determined the track is safe for the operation. On the other hand, the switch gang is working separately on the tie from the tie surface and crew with the same general vicinity. The qualified person may be working with a work unit. Alright, 213, measuring track not under load. When under load, track the measure to determine the compliance with the requirements of this part, the amount of the rail movement. If any of the curve of the track is low, it must be added with the measurement of the unloaded track. In addition, with the static unload, the geometry measure for the taking the amount of the very visual, detectable dynamic load deflection occurred under the train movement must be considered. This includes the amount of the vertical lateral rail deflection occurring between the rail base and end. And each deflection under the running rails must be measured but properly considered. The computing of the collective deviations under the law is very important, but the consideration to be given to both rails measuring these deflections. Your static gauge of 57 inches, dynamic movement of 1/2 inch from the rail nail of the single shoulder tie plate. Dynamic gauge 57.5 inch. Vertical lateral deflections might be found located in locations such as rail joints, turnout locations, poor wooden cross ties, conventional cut spikes, fastening conditions, or bridge abutments over culverts where the subgrade is settled. 213.14 application of the requirements of the curved track. Unless otherwise provided with this part, requirements of the special curved track apply only if the track having curvature greater than a quarter of a degree. Guidance. The section defines the meaning of the curved track for the purpose of application. Application requirements of the curved track, unless otherwise provided with this part. Requirements specified with the curved track apply only to the track curving with a curvature greater than a quarter of a degree. The definition of the defines and intended to apply in all sections of the limits for the curved track is specified unless otherwise provided. Please note the application of the section track measurement system is regarded with the compliance of statute 213 must be able to detect curves the minimum specified degree of the curvature. 213.15 penalties. 15A. Any person who violates the requirements of the part of the cause for the violation of such requirement is subject to civil penalty of at least $500, not more than $11,000 per violation, except where the penalties may be assessed against the individual only with the willful violation, where the bureau's negligent violation with a pattern of repeated violations has created the imminent hazard of the death and injury. Each person has caused death or injury. Penalties not exceeding $22,000 per violation may not be assessed. The person means the any of any type of covered in Title 1 U.S. Standard Code 1, including not limited to following railroad manager, supervisor, official, any other employee, agent, railroad, any owner, manufacturer, lessor, or leaser of the railroad equipment, track facility, independent contractor providing goods, service to the railroad, and any employee, such owner of the manufacturer, leaser, or lessor, independent contractor, anyone held with the FRA administration to be responsible for statute 213.5D or 213.303C. Each of the day violation continues such to do a separate offense. They see Appendix B with this part with the state agency civil penalty policy. 15B. Any person knowingly, willfully, falsely records and reports a record with the Part B part may by a subject of the criminal penalties in Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 21311. Guidance. This section covers all parts of Part 213, including the schedule of civil penalties under the Appendix B, Part 213 Schedule of Civil Penalties. All right, 213.17 waiver. 17A, and the owner track of which of the part applied for the owner of the other person's part of the petition, Federal Road Administration for the waiver of any of all the requirements prescribed in this part of the filing of such petition does not affect the person responsible for the compliance with the requirement of the petition is not considered guidance. Inspectors having no authority under the track safety standards for the grant and waiver. The 17B for the petition waiver under the section must be filed with the manner of the containing information part 211 of the chapter part per Title 49 CFR 211.7B and 211.45. F. A petition of the waiver must be filed with the owner of the designated over the docket clerk chief of the Council of Washington, D.C. The petition also must be filed with the Track Association of American Railroads on behalf of the member. In addition, with the chapter of the inspector should also reference the FRA Original Railroad Safety General Manual, the Chapter 5 of the complaint and waiver investigation for the guidance information regarding waiver procedures. General Manual, Chapter 5, page 153, indicates the waiver petition may also be addressed by the FRA Management Special, and in the past, the most petition might have been addressed by the chairperson of the FRA Railroad Safety Board, with the most waiver decided that the board. 17C, Administrative finds the waiver of the public interest is consistent with the Railroad Safety Administrator with the grant exemption with some of the additional administrator. Deems necessary. Whenever the waiver is granted, the administrator publishes the notice containing the reason for the granting of the waiver. Typically, waiver the signature of the AAA Chief Safety Officer, his or her delegate, which should keep the update with any of the waivers in effect of the assigned territory which are relevant to the job activities. Or Statute 213.19, Information Collection. Information collection requirements for this part were reviewed over the Office Management and Budget pursuant to the Paperwork Reduction 1980 Act of 1980, Title 44, U.S. Standard Code 3501. Attendant sequences are assigned with the Office Management and Budget Control Number 2130. 0010. Information collection requirements found in sections 213.4, 213.5, 213.7, 213.17, 57, 119, 122, 233, 237, 241, 303, 305, 317, 329, 333, 339, 34.1, 34.3, 34.5, 35.3, 36.1, 36.9. Alright, subpart B, roadbed. Subpart prescribes the minimum requirements of the roadbed and areas immediately adjacent to the roadbed. 213.33, each drainage other than water carrying the facility under the immediately adjacent to the roadbed must be maintained to keep it free of the obstruction, accommodate expected water flow over the area. The guidance on one of the most essential elements of the track, meaning the comprehensive drainage of the drainage facility, bridges, and trestle culverts should be careful consideration during inspection opening of the track, use of the channel to divert the water from one side of the roadbed to the other. The rules specify that each of the drainage structure to maintain with the inspector shall note the condition of the weather, affect the integrity structure of the culvert, pull apart such operations, crushing the uneven with the settlement due to the failure to lack of the head of the walls in conjunction with the frost. Action to stop the gradient and insufficient support drain openings must be inspected with notice given with the debris accumulated to such extent that expected water flow cannot be accommodated. Most railroad drain structures have existed more than many years to properly maintained with the kept the debris that considered adequately designed and accommodated with expected water flow, even though the high water marks may be slightly above the inlet opening. The culverts are designed with a submerged inlet. If the inlets are common where a question raised concerning adequate drainage structure, the regional track specialist should be consulted. Inspectors must take note of the conditions right of way of the culvert, trestle, bridges, inlets, water and carrying structure, passageway, outlet, tail ditches, berm ditches, scoring, embankments, piling, piers, the channels and abutments, filling of the passageways from silts and sandwich debris. Inspectors must notify the track owner of any drainage conditions deemed hazardous or potential hazardous to safe drain operation over the track. Alright, 213.37, vegetation. Vegetation on the railroad property is on immediately adjacent to the roadbed shall be controlled so that it does not 37A become the fire hazard of the track carrying structure. The inspector must be aware of the live and delayed growth of drifts, which tumbleweeds, debris, etc. can constitute with the fire hazard with the timber, bridge, the trestle, wooden blocks, culverts, other track carrying structures. 37B obstructs the visibility of the railroad sign signals along with the right of way at the high railway, costing paragraph B2 of the applicable 7/7/21. The paragraph includes the requirement for the clear vegetation of the sign signals along with the railroad right-of-way of the highway rail grade crossing the scope of the part with 213 limits the vegetation requirement of the railroad property. 9 and 10 for the attempt dictate the standards of the surrounding land. Over the paragraph also requires the signs and signals of the road property of the highway grade crossing to be kept in vegetation is intended to properly adequately visible of the device to travel public and is not intended to preempt the state local requirements for the clearing vegetation of the railroad right-of-way of the highway rail grade crossing. Obstruction of visibility, railroad signs, signals, vegetation, the deviation from the track, safety, general, all other signs. Signals are important visibility. Certain signals must be clearly observed. Black signals, interlocking speed signs, other signs affecting the movement of the trains, clearance signs, and whistle posts and mileposts. 37C. Interfering with the railroad performing the normal track duties. The guidance for judgment must be exercised by the inspector to determine whether the trackside vegetation interfered with the railroad employees performing the normal trackside duties. Weeds covering the track and hinder the ability of the inspector to see the track structure components not necessary to imply condition. 37D. Preventing the proper function of signal community lines. Guidance before sighting of the railroad vegetation and interfering with the signal and communication lines, the inspectors must confirm the line is active occasionally when the inspector observes the vegetation line. If the unsure if there is functional communication between the track inspector and the FRA signal, the train control set inspector necessary, but the railroad representative cannot conform with the status of the signal and communication line. Interfering with the activity of the line of vegetation must cause the false signal indication to disrupt the communication vital safety train operation when they are in question regarding the vegetation signal lines. The joint inspection track and signal personnel are incurred to the track inspector shall issue a violation report and if necessary in concurrence with the signal operator. 37E. The preventing the railroad employees from visual inspection moving equipment from their normal duties. There are several ways in the vegetation preventing the railroad from visual inspection move equipment. For example, the vegetation is striking the window of the locomotive cab that can interfere with the train crew cab ability to preserve rolling stock. Other, the vegetation is striking the train and can interfere with the ground employees to be observed with the rolling stock during switching operations. So Part C, track geometry.